Sometimes a single metaphor can just change how you see everything. It can boil down to one simple question, but with huge consequences. Are you in a rowboat or are you in a sailboat? And as we're about to see, that choice defines pretty much everything. This whole idea actually has some really deep ancient roots. When the very first Christians were looking for a symbol for their community, they picked a boat. But the kind of boat they chose, well, that turns out to be the most important detail of all. And get this, here's a surprising historical fact that this whole idea hinges on. It was always a sailboat. Never a rowboat. And that wasn't some random accident. That distinction was intentional, and it was incredibly important. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, that's a cool piece of trivia, but so what? Well, that one single detail actually reveals two profoundly different ways of operating, two mindsets that are just as relevant today as they were 2,000 years ago. So yeah, this ancient choice, it was way more than just picking a pretty picture. It was a huge statement about where they believed their power, their real momentum came from. It gets right to the heart of how they saw themselves and what they were doing in the world. And this is where you see the core difference, right? A rowboat, well, that's all about human muscle and effort. It's powered from the inside. But a sailboat? It's designed for something totally different, to harness an external, unseen power, the wind. One relies on its own strength, the other relies on something so much bigger. All right, so let's dig into that first model. The source material calls it the rowboat mentality. And honestly, this is kind of the default setting for a lot of organizations. It's this quiet, unconscious belief that at the end of the day, success depends entirely on our own efforts. So what does this actually look like day to day? Well, in a rowboat organization, the focus is always on the circumstances. How much money is in the bank, how many volunteers showed up. Progress is measured by our own strength, our own smart ideas. The whole vibe just swings back and forth between, yeah, we can do this, and oh no, we can't do this, all based on what we think we can achieve on our own. The source gives this mindset a pretty provocative name, functional atheism. Now, this isn't about denying a belief in theory, it's about acting as if the ultimate responsibility rests solely on our shoulders. It's that deep down conviction that if anything good is going to happen, we're the ones who have to make it happen. But here's the thing. Operating this way just isn't sustainable. When you rely only on human effort, you inevitably fall into this predictable and pretty destructive cycle of burnout, frustration, and blame. The first danger sign is this constant frantic search for a quick fix. People start believing that if they can just find the right how-to guide or the perfect new program, all of their deep-seated problems will just magically disappear. And when the programs don't work, the hope then shifts to a person. The belief becomes, if we can just find one heroic, charismatic leader, a new pastor or a new CEO, they will single-handedly turn everything around. The weight of the entire organization gets placed on just one individual. And when that heroic leader inevitably can't fix it all, the final stage is usually blame. Instead of looking inward, the group starts looking outward, blaming the higher-ups, the changing culture, or anything else to explain why there's no progress. The end result of all this rowing is, well, it's pretty grim. A scarcity mindset takes over. The original passion just grows cold, and deep fellowship turns into surface-level socializing. And most importantly, the core mission itself just stalls out. But when a community finally realizes that rowing just isn't working, they face a critical choice. This is the turning point, the moment they have to decide whether to just keep rowing harder or to try something completely different. The source material lays out three paths here. 1, just give up. You run out of energy and money, and you close the doors. 2, you turn inward and fight until the conflict just tears the group apart. Or 3, the hopeful choice, learn to sail. And this means reorienting everything to catch that external power, the wind of the spirit. The foundational belief for a sailboat community is captured perfectly in this quote. It's a total shift from focusing on human limitations to trusting in a power that can do abundantly far more than we could ever ask or imagine. It's a mindset of potential, not poverty. Now, becoming a sailor isn't about being passive and just waiting for things to happen. It's about actively living in what the source calls a creative tension between two really profound spiritual realities. The first reality is one of radical humility. It's recognizing that, on our own, our efforts in spiritual matters are, well, ultimately fruitless. Without me, Jesus says, you can do nothing. That's a direct challenge to the "it's all up to us" mentality of the rower. But that humility is immediately balanced by this second equally powerful reality, an immense faith. It's the belief that with God as the guide and the power source, the unthinkable actually moves into the realm of the possible. And this right here is the key. The sailor's life is lived right in that tension between those two truths. It's the humbling knowledge that we are powerless on our own, combined with the exciting adventure of seeing what a greater power can do through us. That is the essence of sailing. So we have explored the history, the mindsets, and the outcomes of these two approaches. Now, let's bring it all together and turn the question inward. This chart provides a final, really stark contrast. On one side, you've got the rower, powered by human strength, believing it's all up to us, focused on limitations and ending in burnout and scarcity. On the other side, you've got the sailor, harnessing the spirit, believing without God we can do nothing, focused on discerning a path forward and finding a life of adventure and possibility. And that leaves us with the final, crucial question. Look at your own life, your workplace, your community. Is the primary energy coming from frantic human effort, from just rowing harder and harder with diminishing returns? Or have you learned to stop, hoist the sails, and catch a power far greater than your own? Are you rowing, or are you sailing?